Welcome to Swank and Mentz Off the Fence, where Mr. Mentz and Mrs. Swank answer questions relating to whatever topics you provide.
If you're a student at GCHS, listen up.
Nothing we say here is the express opinion or view of Greensburg Community Schools, but if you have a question burning a hole through your brain, email us.
Who knows? Your question might inspire us. Now let's get on with the show. Season 2, which is really Season 3, but that's just because of the whole Season 0 thing, which, by the way, if you're listening, we encourage you to go and listen to Season 0 because I don't even think people realize that exists.
Which was the original season?
The original, yeah. Kind of the accidental season, sort of.
Yeah.
Kind of. Well, anyway, Season 2, this is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a great little pile of questions from, I think right now these are all seniors. But we do encourage everybody to send along a question so we can consider it. But today we're going to tackle, to open up the season, do an episode on fear. Perhaps specifically, what was a fear you had as a child? What do you fear now? How should one react to fear in general? In our humble opinions.
Yeah. Without, we're not, clinical psychologists or anything like that. Or
no way.
We can't really be given.
Yeah, this is not what you should do. This is just our opinions and thoughts on it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, what do you got? Do you remember what you were scared of when you were a kid?
Yeah, I was scared of the dark.
Okay.
When I was a kid, I think lots of kids suffer from that. Mm-hmm. And to some extent, maybe even, I can get my imagination going even now, if it's like pitch black. Mm-hmm. Because my imagination's pretty active. Mm-hmm. But I always thought the boogeyman was under my bed. I think I watched I was not allowed to watch horror movies as a kid, but I would just go to my best friend's house and watch them there and then get freaked out. Like I remember specifically Poltergeist, the movie. There's a scene where the little boy is looking under his bed, and there's a clown under the bed. Yeah, I still don't like clowns because of that scene, and probably because what my imagination has done since childhood, right? With clowns specifically. So
okay, yeah, Poltergeist is a weird one, especially like the original. Just something more creepy about that original, like older one.
Did they reboot it?
I think so, right? Or no, they didn't.
Oh, okay.
There's another clown one. I don't really watch horror movies.
Oh, there's like all kinds of creepy clown stuff.
Yeah. I don't know.
Just not a fan.
No, I don't like horror movies. I don't really like to get that part of my brain too active anymore. Where I used to kind of get a thrill from it, I do not anymore. Like now that I'm the protector of the house and I like have to think about that kind of stuff, and I can't just go to bed at night being like, oh, my dad's got me. Or, somebody else is going to protect this house. Now I have to sit up and think about that kind of stuff. So I don't really appreciate horror movies anymore. I'm already thinking about the worst case scenarios always anyways. So I don't need any help with that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the dark and, I was kind of fearless in like, probably I'd be in big trouble now, which is the opposite of the question. But I didn't fear enough things when I was a kid, I think. Or maybe that's good, actually, now that I start to think about it. Like, I was kind of fearless in pursuit of adventure.
Mm-hmm. I could see that. Yeah, I was too. I think you're just, it's more of a naive thing than it is a courage thing. Yeah. And now, if you want to do something that you might consider irrational and might spark some fear, it takes courage, and not just because you don't know or you don't understand or you're naive. It's like, well, I know I am fearful, but I have to get over that fear in order to accomplish this.
Try to go toward it now as an adult.
Yeah.
Go at it. At least try to. What about you when you were a kid?
I had a fear of death, but only like it was it almost seemed like an unhealthy, like I constantly thought about like eternity. Mm-hmm. And that was so scary to me. Like, okay, well, after I die and then just forever happens, you know what I mean? And I had no idea like how it works, like how heaven works or anything like that. As a child, it was just, me thinking about just forever of being dead. It was so scary.
Did you have a reason for that? And the reason why I'm asking is I had an aunt that, because I had a very similar viewpoint. As a very young child, I contemplated heaven, hell, all those things, and it was primarily because I had an aunt that was very vocal with the younger ones, and she would kind of scare the heck out of us. And I just wonder if it was just, if you can trace it back to like a particular person or for a particular reason.
I don't know. It may have been a funeral or something that I attended, but it wasn't like the fear of going to hell or anything like that. It was the fear of just how long eternity is.
And your existence in it, or?
No, my existence would be very short compared to just being dead for the rest of eternity.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
A little bit. I mean,
I just remember that.
How small? Were you?
I don't know. I was a kid. I don't know.
It's kind of deep for a kid.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I remember like laying in bed thinking about it sometimes. It's like, I mean, now it's not a fear of mine anymore because I've been saved, and so that's different. But now I don't think about death for eternity. I think about living for eternity, and that changes why I'm here. And anyways, that was very scary for me.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think religion and spirituality for kids is sometimes as adults we forget that they're little thinking beings, you know, that they're not too young to think about it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Anything on the practical side, not the mental side, but
no. Like you, I was fearless. I did not that I was fearless. I was just I didn't know any better. I was just an adventurer.
Yeah.
So, bad things, you don't know about bad things until you're an adult, really, for most people.
Yeah.
And so if you're adventurous, you just go.
Yep.
Like you probably haven't, most people haven't seen bad things or know about bad things. And well, it's different now because we have internet. So before everyone was just simple, we didn't know things.
That's very true.
They've injected our society with fear, because if one bad thing happens to a kid, it's all over the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And then they ban that product or something, whatever it happened to. And
yeah.
And, there's probably some benefit to it, but also I think it's caused a lot of fear where people are just afraid to do things because, one incident maybe happened in the past to someone else or before. People just didn't know about it. So we just continued doing the thing.
When I was a small, I think I was 7 or something around that age when I don't even know if most people that are under 40 something even heard of the Tylenol scare in Chicago area. There was some terrible person that was poisoning Tylenol bottles or whatever. And we lived on the south side of Chicago, and I had trick-or-treated every Halloween up until, then. And then all of a sudden, when I was 8, my parents were like, oh, somebody's poisoning candy. You can't trick-or-treat anymore. And all my friends were trick-or-treating. And I think that was the first time in my childhood where I had the effect of my parents' fear because they were pretty much go run around the neighborhood, go do whatever you want to do. Not at all like today, where there's just a lot of oversight. There just wasn't. So I never really understood that. But I didn't have fear of going trick-or-treating and grabbing candy from people. And people giving it out. I wasn't like the kid that took candy from anybody else. But yeah. So the second one is, what do you fear now? And maybe we should mesh these two. I don't know. But it says, how should one react to fear in general?
I have more of a fear now of taking risks than I did before.
Would you say the same type of risk? Because I think I've also grown out of taking risks, but only the really stupid kind.
I'm more conservative than I used to be. Physically too, especially. I wouldn't just go dive off a cliff when probably 10 years ago I would have done that. No problem.
I was just thinking the same thing, like bungee jumping when I was in my 20s. I would have done all that. I actually did do several just absolutely crazy things, but I wouldn't do it now. I had, even to the point where I had a motorcycle for a while, and I have no interest in it. It's not that I would say for someone else, don't have a motorcycle. It just, I just kind of grew out of it a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a fear or anything like that.
Right. just a maturity as you get older.
Yeah.
Just don't care to do adventure that, silly, stupid things.
I think I find adventure in other places.
Right.
That I didn't before. So it's kind of funny because it makes me wonder if fear changes just like we do. So I still don't love the dark, because of my imagination, but it's a different kind of fear. I still don't love clowns, but that's evolved as well.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm afraid of taking risks, but I'm a lot more calculated than I used to be. I'm more analytical. I overanalyze things probably more than I should, especially as an entrepreneur.
Right.
Where you have to go out and take risks. But at the same time, like I understand that you have to take risks if you want to be successful in this world, in this economy. You have to take risks, and so it's okay to have a fear. I think most people do have a fear of putting themselves out there, but you have to just if you want it, you just got to go do it. You got to have some courage in spite of the fear to just go out and do the thing. As Mrs. Swank would say.
Do the thing, yeah. I wonder if the idea of the fear for people, and I don't think I fall into this. Maybe I do. I'm overly self-critical sometimes about, if I'm being what I'm saying. I think people, but I wonder if people, the idea of what we fear isn't bigger than the actual fear itself, or if you were to put it in practical terms and go toward the fear, you would find that it's not as bad as your mind creates within you.
Right.
Because there's that there's the therapy, exposure therapy, right? Where you go, you don't like spiders, and they, maybe the first time they bring a spider in a little, jar or something and just set it by you. And then you can practically apply that to just about anything. Like if I get into a car accident and I don't want to get in the car anymore, well, I better get in the car. Because the more I don't want to get in the car, the more I should get in the car. At least that's my personal opinion.
Right. And the more you shy away from doing the thing, the more scared, more fearful you are, probably in an unhealthy way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a similar experience with the car thing with the, I think you're familiar, but maybe not everyone, all the listeners are, but I was in a helicopter crash on my second deployment, and that is scary.
Yeah, I would
if
think
you could
so.
imagine. And so I had to get back on a helicopter, the same type of helicopter, to leave that country. And that on our way out of the country, we got shot at, in the helicopter. So the flares, and they swooped and like all the stuff. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to die in an Osprey. Like that's what's going to happen. And I didn't, but then I had to get on another helicopter after that. And then I had to get on an airplane and fly 12 hours back to the United States. And that was the most scared I'd ever been. I had gotten shot at and, mortared and rockets, but none of that scared me. It was after that crash, just the fear of falling out of the sky because of someone else's human error, that was petrifying. So I've kind of always told myself I would probably never fly again, even though I enjoyed flying before. So I don't like that idea. Like I want to be able to fly again, but I don't know if I will.
Yeah, I mean that's how trauma messes with your head, and tells you we're in the same scenario again. And was the helicopter crash, was that an error on the part of the pilot, or had you guys gotten shot?
No, it was pilot.
Yeah.
Error.
Yeah. Which probably makes it harder to process in your own head, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because then I just don't trust people.
Right.
That's the problem. I don't like even going in elevators anymore with the same amount of thought. Like, well, a person created this thing, and now it's a box that I could fall to my death in. Mm-hmm. And so, like, anything that is engineered by a person, I don't trust it.
I think that's what the kids want to get at.
Yeah.
Like that makes a lot of sense, but it's probably every time you turn around, you're facing it.
Yeah.
Which is what courage is.
It doesn't feel like it.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, so that's something that I've had to get over, just because, you can't limit all of your life and your family's life experiences to that fear.
Yeah.
So
I think similarly, and we were talking before we started recording, and I was like, I don't know if I want to really get too super personal, but I think maybe that's where you touch people and they can grow from just listening to stuff like this. But I don't think I don't know if I've told any kids. I was widowed at 22, and my first husband, being there when he died has really put a fear of the actual process of death that sticks with me. And it's very much just a trauma response, I think. But like the idea of, and our kids, I'm sure many of them, unfortunately, have probably been around like a grandparent or somebody who's dying. And it's not what you see on TV. And the whole I don't love thinking about, I don't mind the thought of death, but the thought of the process of death scares me in a way that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because of the length of time it can take, without getting into the details. But
yeah,
I think being scared is being human.
Mm-hmm.
But what you do with it is what matters.
Well, I think specifically the fear of death is human, because other animals aren't conscious enough to understand that they're going to die ever, but they're scared of predators or something like that, where, the human is the only person that understands that they're going to die someday. So that's a lot.
Yeah, and the stories that we tell ourselves to try to cope with any of the nuanced thoughts regarding that, can be interesting.
Right. But it's also something that every human has to deal with. So it's, other people might be affected by it more, but that is just something that is inherently human. So there's probably a lot of students that are fearful of death, but that's part of life.
Yes.
So I guess I don't really have a coping mechanism except for just, understanding that trying to live your life purposefully.
Yeah.
Because, in the end, we're all
doing it.
Yeah. That's the one thing we all have in common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing about like graveyards for me, is people get, I think, spooked out at graveyards, and I just kind of take the tact of, well, here's all these people that have, lived and done all the human things, and now they're, at least their body, so to speak, is done. And it's not a creepy thing for me. It's more like cycle of life sort of thing. It's
a stark reminder that we're mortal, and the only way to seemingly be immortal is to create a legacy for yourself or for your family or something like that. And we've talked about this before on a podcast, but just going out and being successful and just being purposeful in spite of the fact that we are mortal. That's a pretty cool thing. That takes courage.
And understanding that things are interconnected in ways that we don't understand until we experience. Sometimes you have to experience things, whether it's fear or not, multiple times in multiple ways in order to grow and understand why things happen the way they do. I'm not trying to back out and get super philosophical, but part of experience, I think part of our experience as human beings should have a fear element to it.
Yeah.
Because it's not all bad.
Yeah, fear is a powerful motivator.
Yeah. And there's a lot to learn in it, but it's not fun being in it.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah. All right. So part 3, did we cover this? Let's see. How should one react if I think we kind of covered that, in different ways.
What was the entire question?
So all 3 parts.
Or just the last part?
It was how should one react to fear in general?
I think you should embrace it.
When you can. I mean, maybe you can't always, and maybe you can only sometimes. And I think when you're 17, well, here I go being an adult, because I was about to say, life experience is low, but some of the things the kids have experienced are
right.
Far exceed anything I experienced by the time I was 17. Real fear, it doesn't know wealth or race or any of the boundaries that we humans put on, Yeah,
and their exposure is so much different than ours was. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Like, they're going to be more fearful of things that we just had no idea when we were that age.
Yeah. Just school shootings, not to bring up like the big elephant in the room, but I mean, seriously, like the school safety and public safety, like Greenwood Mall. And I mean, it would be absurd to my 17-year-old self that I couldn't go to, like, to think about anything like that happening at a mall. And, I'm sure we could go down this rabbit hole, but the world is a different place.
Right.
Mental health is in a different place, or at least somehow different, where there's more people acting out, or at least seemingly so. Maybe the same amount of people are acting out, but you're onto something with your you're online and you can know in a heartbeat what's going on, and the awareness is greater. Although I don't know, I think without being a sociologist or whatever, I think maybe people acting out in not so kind ways might be on the rise. Yeah.
I suspect there's a reason for that, but we don't need to dig into that
right
today.
All right, so we are, do you want to wrap this up with a couple tiers? One of my students asked today if we could do our top 3 apocalypse items. Like if what would you have with you? And he said top 10. And I was like, that's going to take forever. And he said, well, you need a weapon. And I'm like, do we? I mean, probably Mentz and Swank would, but like, like that and scenes from a movie, or we could just tease this too for next time. And also music, or either genres or bands specifically, which I think I would need some time to think about. But
for sure.
What do you want to do? Just tease it out. And while we're at it, since we're at 24 minutes, we could also, I could say I have something in my filing cabinet that has been sitting for months waiting for us to open this season.
It's not a cockroach, is it?
It is. Oh, there's probably those.
Yeah.
I've already
Maybe that's
encountered.
the reason that there's a bunch of dead cockroaches in my room.
No, it's sealed.
Okay.
But I'll just leave that hanging. So maybe we'll leave those tiers hanging. And also,
if you want to hear what our apocalypse list is.
Yeah. Tune in for episode 2.
Or what Swank has in her desk.
Yes. Which I have quite a lot. But one specific thing for on the air.
If you were an old school teacher, it might be like a bottle of booze or something, right?
Yeah.
I think teachers did that.
I do.
Yeah.
I've heard.
You do think that teachers do that? Or
I do think that no. I do think that teachers in the past had perhaps done. I've heard too many stories.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Greensburg Community High School. I'm talking about like some other high schools that I may or may not have taught in or attended.
Really?
Yeah.
But not this school. Too professional.
Right. You know what we should do an episode on? Most embarrassing moments while we've been teaching.
Yeah, I'd have to think about that.
I've got too many.
Really?
Yeah.
You got any off the top of your head?
Oh, yeah. We're just going to have to leave it there. We'll see. You know what? We'll see if any kid emails us, hey, what are your guys' most embarrassing moments while you're teaching?
Right.
I've got a great story, but I'm not telling it right now.
Because they didn't ask about it?
Yeah, they have to ask.
All right.
All right. Take it out, Mentz.
All right. That's all for today. Remember, if you are a student at GCHS, email us a question. Yours might be next. Thanks for listening.